Guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's hope that this is... let's see. Did everything come back? Am I back? Am I back? Okay. All right. So it looks like it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Try refreshing, guys. Okay. No, we're not starting over. I hope not. It's okay. Got to get back to where I was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Hi, guys. This is, live broadcasting. Occasionally, things happen. Everybody back? Is everybody back? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're back. Oh, I see at least one person says we're back, baby. Okay. Bums. I'm not. A couple people are not. There, we got one thumb up. All right. Okay. Let's see. What about Facebook? Is Facebook back? Did Facebook come back? I don't know what the heck happened. Let's see. Let's see. What happened? Are we back yet? On Facebook. Is Facebook back? I'm going to be a little irritated if Facebook doesn't come back. Let's go back here. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Let's go here. Yeah, GTB. I'm not BRB. I'm seeing some people here, so let's make sure. Are we back? Are we back? Is Facebook back streaming again? Okay, it looks like Facebook might be back streaming now. Oops, I don't know what's going on. Why did that stop? Okay. Am I dead? Am I back? What's going on here? It looks like I'm back. Are we back? Yep. Okay, so we got some people saying back on Facebook. So there we go. I think we're back. May have to close out and come back, but I think we're back. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with YouTube. No? Okay. All right. Are we good? Everybody, can everybody see? Are we, is Facebook back? I see you guys on Facebook. I can actually see the video running on Facebook. So it looks like we're back on Facebook. It looks like we're back on YouTube. And from what I can tell, it looks like we're back on Rumble. Is that true? Just give me a thumbs up. Oh, I got a 10-4 out of Buddy over on Rumble. How about Facebook? We good here? Let's see. Okay, good. All right, so it looks like Facebook's good. I'm not really all that concerned about YouTube because YouTube doesn't usually net me a lot of people. So, all right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think it was a communication crash. So, yeah, sending out an SOS signal would be great. Okay, so so here we go. And of course I'm going to have to bounce things around. But anyway, so the left was having a meltdown. They started to melt down because, of course, the release of the Epstein files. And the Epstein files essentially caused a lot of them to break. I mean, even Rob Reiner reportedly completely broke. And so, yeah, it just was kind of interesting as far as that goes. Now, Obviously, when we were talking about Biden, and Biden originally scheduled his speech to be on Saturday tonight, and unfortunately, because of a storm that seems to be moving into pretty much everywhere, but the East End got it, or the East Coast, you guys got it first. He ended up moving it to last night. And last night, his speech was anti-American. I gotta respond to Tommy over on Facebook, because to making sure that people can see him, see people. So anyway, okay. So let me see. Can I get this refreshed? Refresh this. Nope. Yeah, let me refresh that and see what that does. See if it catches up here. But anyway, okay. All right. Trying. Anyway, he sorry about this, folks. It just that's live broadcasting for you. So anyway, he went ahead and did this speech. Now, this speech was about as anti-American as I could possibly imagine here, because of the fact that he wanted to recycle a whole bunch of old attacks on Trump. And he kept talking about how Trump was going to destroy democracy. Trump was going to do, all of these things. He's going to be a dictator. Although what's interesting is, Biden's doing much more dictator-ish stuff than what he is now. If you look at this image, I mean, this is angry Biden. This is what, if you recall that speech that happened on Independence Day in front of Independence Hall, or actually, I don't think it happened on Independence Day, but it was in front of Independence Hall. He got into what they called the dark Brandon, and he had red eyes and all this other crap. Well, this time the people who paid more attention to how to frame him in this thing, they put a flag behind him this time, trying to make him look more American. But as I didn't watch the speech. I can't just freaking watch this guy. I really can't. He pisses me off so much. But anyway, what I did is I found this article, and it's in the show notes. And this is an opinion piece. Now, Jonathan Turley, for those of you that don't know, he is nothing. He is not a right winger in any way, shape, or form. He is a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer, and he tends to go around and comment on the constitutionality of stuff. Now, he went and testified in front of Congress about January 6th, and he writes opinion pieces for The Hill, just like this one. And here's a quote from Biden. This is like something out of a fairy tale, a bad fairy tale. And so Turley comments that line from the speech of President Joe Biden at Valley Forge this week may have been the most accurate observation in the entire address kicking off Biden's 2024 campaign. The speech was a masterpiece of contradiction. Biden started by denouncing how Donald Trump's campaign is only about him and obsessed with the past. And then he spent virtually all of his speech obsessing about Trump and January 6th. Oh my gosh. So obviously, I mean, because of today being January 6th, the anniversary of the quote attack and, quote, insurrection, quote, on our democracy, quote, and all these other things that the Dems and the left want to say about 3 years ago. He goes on and he kind of picks apart the entire speech. Now, I would suggest reading this opinion piece if you can. You need to kind of work through this. a little bit, but the thing about it is that once again, Biden interwove lies and interwove a bunch of, anti-American rhetoric. And by anti-American, I mean, anti-Trumper rhetorics. And he just goes off and, again, attacks in so many different ways. Well, the left on social media took off and immediately was like, hey, this was such a great speech, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. If you want to talk about democracy, you want to talk about being a democratic leader, then maybe your party shouldn't go around and try to remove your number one opponent. The other thing is that maybe you shouldn't try and remove, as Turley points out, trying to remove 126 Republicans from Congress on the same basis, which, again, I mean, we've been talking about the insurrection not being the insurrection. I've told you this. Insurrection, by definition, requires at least some sort of coordination, and I would imagine some sort of an armed force, and would not be, taken down in 3 hours or whatever it was, 3 or 4 hours. Probably would involve more deaths than just one. And, actually would potentially change things, which none of this actually happened. And so essentially what you're looking at here is a total divisive and delusional speech from our resident in chief. And, Turley goes through and talks about a lot of different things here. I'm not going to cover them all, mainly just because we have cut back. I've unfortunately cut back on a little bit of time here because of the technical difficulties. But the thing about it is that, once again, we have the guy who is supposed to be the uniter actually being the divider. And how anybody could look at this speech and call it, democratic or American, or even just one that is, uplifting for the country, they're lying to you. Now, of course, the Democrats are all like, oh, Biden did so great and blah, blah, blah. Well, after that speech, supposedly there's some images which you can find on social media of him flying back to the White House, apparently from Valley Forge. And he got off Marine One, which is the helicopter, and he apparently was walking around confused. Jill just takes off. The doctor who's not a doctor, who basically is the best doctor that has ever doctored in the doctoral world. But she just takes off and freaking leaves him. And he's standing there looking at the Marine who is standing there saluting the guy. He doesn't bother to salute back so that the poor guy can drop his salute. But he's asking him, he's like, where do I go? Where do I go? And they tried to direct him in the proper direction. And he's just he's turned around and all messed up. I mean, it was so embarrassing. It really was, to look at that. This guy is just absolutely embarrassing, as far as our, commander-in-chief goes. All right. But before I go any further, I want to give a shout out to, True Grit Roots Network, TGRN. True Grit Roots Network brings you brings you 24/7, 365 blues. We are a blues channel and digital radio station. We have the blues channel up and running right now, and I just onboarded a fantastic new on-air personality today. Can't wait to hear what she brings. A lot of her music, she told me, was or is going to be blues roots music, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but hey, you got to check out her show once we get it scheduled. I also have another blues on-air personality who's coming to the program. You should go and check it out. It's got some fantastic music. We've got fantastic programming. Tomorrow is Sunday. We have, starting in the morning, we have, I believe it's Oogie's Porch to Pew. And then after that, we have Lady A's Gumbo and Gospel. And then on with like Queens of the Blues, Roots and Fruits, and several other programs. You ought to come by and check it out. And by come by, I mean download it to your mobile device by going to tgrn.net and picking up our app, or you can find us on the Live 365 catalog of internet digital radio stations. Just look for True Grit Roots Network, TGRN, and you can find us there. You can also play us on your Amazon Alexa and also your Roku through the Live 365 application there. And I have a question from Mark over on Facebook. Is there any classic rock? Unfortunately, not yet, but we do have plans. They are on the board. No schedule yet of launching a rock channel as well as things like a country channel. And we are working toward that. But of course, we got to get the blues all tied up, and there's some financial incentives here, but we got to get some stuff going in order to make that happen. But anyway, so come and check us out, tgrn.net, True Grit Roots Network out of Austin, Texas. And of course, I am obligated to tell you that I am part owner in that organization. So just go and listen. It's got some really good stuff. But we appreciate it if you would take a listen. And if it's not your thing, that's fine too. We're good with that. Once again, TGRN, True Grit Roots Network. Check us out at tgrn.net. All right. So one of the major themes for the last couple of days, of course, and especially for today, has to deal with January 6th and what happened on January 6th. Now, two things occurred today. That I want to bring to you. One of them is the fact that apparently three individuals who were on the Capitol grounds on January 6th were arrested in Florida today. I don't know. I don't have any specifics really to tell you about what they were there for, but apparently, the left rejoiced in it. The federal authorities picked him up and arrested him today. Ironic how they did it on Saturday, January 6th. I'm sure they were planning it for the optics and that kind of thing. But the other thing that happened here in the last day was that the husband of Ashley Babbitt has filed a wrongful death federal lawsuit against the United States government. And Judicial Watch is actually backing him in this, and he's seeking $30 million for her wrongful death. Now, there is and it was filed yesterday on the 5th, there is a interesting bit of information that the Epic Times kind of calls out here. And I'm sure as we get going along, there's going to be more and more stuff that's going to show up. But let's just show you this. So again, this is from the Epic Times. One of the things that came out is a recording of the radio traffic of the Capitol Police at the time, just prior to and just after the time that Ashley Babbitt was shot. Now, what's interesting about it is the fact that somebody, and they don't know who, but there's an unidentified Capitol Police person who called out that there were shots fired in the House chamber and that they were being shot at. Now, the Capitol Police dispatcher repeated that. And then right behind that one came Michael Byrd's shot on Ashley Babbitt and a following radio call from him to essentially say that he was also under fire and that they meaning the forces, were ready to shoot. Now, the interesting thing about this is the only known the only known firing or discharge of a firearm was done by Mr. Byrd. That's the only known time that a firearm was discharged throughout January 6th. As far as, not the rubber bullet kind of firing, I'm talking like an actual firearm with actual bullets striking a person. So where this call came from over the radio in terms of, hey, they're firing on us, arms and that kind of stuff. It just, I don't know. Nobody knows where it came from. They haven't identified the officer that sent it, so on and so forth. So it's really kind of interesting that there were no shots fired at Lieutenant Byrd, according to the lawsuit. And the only shot that was fired was the single shot that Lieutenant Byrd fired at Ashley. So this is going to be a very interesting case. Now, Judicial Watch, again, they are backing it. And they're seeking, the widower is seeking $30 million from the U.S. government in a wrongful death suit. So this one is really going to be interesting to watch. But this was filed yesterday in court, in the district court, and it's a federal lawsuit. So I'm going to try and keep an eye on this. I'm going to try and keep an eye on this for you guys, and I'll bring you updates as best I can going on from that. Now, the other thing, of course, that is a common theme for the Democrats is that, that is the question mark, whether or not Byrd realistically committed murder. I mean, she was unarmed when she got shot. So she, yes, she was like trying to climb through a window or whatever in the window frame, but she got shot. And being unarmed, I mean, that could be a bit of a problem for this guy. And he's never been charged. And in fact, he's actually going and he became a captain now. He's been promoted. So that's kind of an interesting scenario. But if you go to that link that I have, in the show notes or in the description of the video, you can actually listen to the audio of it. It is in Epoch Times has put it in the article, so you can go and listen to it. So the other thing that obviously is a big talk of the town is the fact that SCOTUS has decided to take up the court case or the case of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment. I'm sorry, I'm getting hit because apparently one of my Whiskey Warriors over on Rumble it's her birthday tomorrow, and so I'm gonna have to sing. So guys, thank you. I appreciate the Rumble rants. I will get to that later. It'll be the last thing just to make it easy on Outlaw Dogs to be able to cut for a sip of whiskey. But it'll be at the end. So anyway, all right. So anyway, the 14th Amendment case has been decided. They are going to take it up. SCOTUS is going to take it up. Now, I told you on the last program that they were more than likely to take it up because they already have a 14th Amendment case on their docket, meaning the one from New Mexico. And so, yeah, it's it's definitely going to be interesting. But the thing about it is that the left has gone nuts over this because they are believing. Anyway, they are believing, the left is believing that SCOTUS is going to not overturn this Colorado case. And the reason why they're not going to turn it over, they think, is because of, get this, because the SCOTUS ruled that abortion is a states' rights issue. They believe putting things on the ballot should be a states' rights issue. Putting a person on the ballot should be a states' rights issue. Well, there's a couple problems with that. Problem number one, obviously, is the fact that the 14th Amendment clearly is in the Constitution, and the fact that the Section 5, as a part of the 14th Amendment, clearly states that Congress has the responsibility for enforcing it. Whereas abortion doesn't show up anywhere in the Constitution, and therefore, because it doesn't show up anywhere in the Constitution, it falls to the 10th Amendment. I mean, the comparison is apples and oranges. They both grow from a tree, but that's it. There's nothing else to it. So that is essentially one of the things that's been running around. Well, the other thing that they've been talking about is all these cases that are going, the 14th Amendment cases that are going all over the place. There are several that are being brought in several different states. I've heard Illinois has jumped on the bandwagon. I've also heard California is getting ready to file one. And so they're all, of course, Democrat states, all trying to get rid of the Republicans. Now, this doesn't sound very Democratic to me. In fact, it doesn't really sound even constitutional republic to me. This is essentially totalitarianism. And speaking of totalitarianism, Biden apparently in North Carolina for the DNC for their primary, Biden has actually been named as the only person on the ballot for the Democrat primary. They just arbitrarily said, yeah, we're not doing it. And there's one other state, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but there's one other state that's done that too. That they've just said, you know what, you don't even get a choice. We're just going to throw in the primary and go from there. And I guess I'm behind on drinks because Outlaw Dogs tells me that I'm supposed to drink for each one of these Rumble rants. So let's see. What am I down? 1, 2. Okay, so I got 3 of them to do. Looks like 3. There's 1. There's 2. Woo! And there's 3, straight in a row. There you go. But anyway, so now I'm got to fill up my glass again. Put a little more in there. All right, so the other thing that, of course, that's happened is several other states are also trying to get him off the ballot because of all these Democrat funded organizations. And what happened in the newest attempt, according to the Western Journal, judge shuts down newest attempt to remove Trump from the ballot. This is in Wyoming. A judge in Wyoming has rejected a motion calling for former President Donald Trump to be removed from the state's 2024 presidential ballot over the left's claim that he ran afoul of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. In her order, she dismissed the claim without prejudice, according to Newsweek. So yeah, and she actually wrote, making a determination at this stage of the process would be imprecise, subject to speculation, and would create rather than diminish future controversies because it would require engaging in legal details made in the abstract and result in a decision rendered without concrete factual background. So this is more of a correct answer for this. And so, yeah, it's just amazing that these people are trying to do this over and over again. I've talked to you about this entire thing with the whole 14th Amendment and you know, where it's going to go. I've mentioned it on social media and that kind of stuff, where I think it's going to go, I should say. SCOTUS, I think, is going to take it up. I think SCOTUS is going to overturn it. And I think SCOTUS is basically going to say, well, until he is charged with it, tried for it, and convicted of it, there is nothing that you can do. That's what I think SCOTUS is going to do. Now, that being said, you know, what's his name? John Roberts is a, John Roberts is going to depend. It's going to really depend a lot on how narrow of opinion that he wants to take with that. But that would be my take. I mean, based on what I've already presented, what I've already laid out, the fact that you have, you know, Section 5, you have 18 USC, Section 2383, and also the due process of the Constitution, I think that would be the most logical tact for the Supreme Court to take. But of course, you know, all of the left is ignoring all of that. No surprise. So anyway, there's more to come on this 14th Amendment stuff, but supposedly SCOTUS, or at least reportedly SCOTUS, has fast-tracked it, and so they will hear arguments. They are scheduled to hear arguments on February 8th. So mark that date. Mark that date in your calendar, February 8th. Well, there's another thing that the left has been taken off on, and this one actually involves Trump's lawyer. Now, I don't recall her name, so I'm not gonna try and mincemeat it here. But she essentially was on Fox apparently and talked about the sorry, I just saw this. So Buddy mentions that SCOTUS will say no insurrection happened and Trump has immunity regardless. I'm hoping you're referring to the two separate cases that are up there, because I don't think that those two are going to cross. I hope you're referring to the two of them being separate, because there is a case with regards to the Trump immunity, and then there's also the case with regards to January 6th and the obstruction charges. So there's a lot of January 6th stuff that's up there, but I'm hoping you're talking about the two separate cases and not them together. But anyway, so let me get back to this. So there was an interview that Trump's lawyer said, and she named the justices. And she talked about Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and, you know, some of the people that Trump nominated and got put on the court. And of course, as soon as she did that, the left just went freaking bananas. Okay. They went nuts about this, because they basically said, in no uncertain terms, that was, that was interference with SCOTUS. That was interference with the SCOTUS. Well, I'm going to bring this up to them now. So if you're a leftist and you believe that just because Trump's lawyer talked about how, SCOTUS should potentially rule, talking in an interview on the news, well, I think you guys need to pay attention to the words of Chuck Schumer shortly after the Dobbs decision, or during the Dobbs decision. Excuse me. I have a drink to catch up on. because Day just sent me a Rumble rant saying, all drinking, drink. So there we go. All right. So this guy, oh my gosh. I'm only going to play the portion that really matters. So, because I don't want to bore you with the rest, but anyway, here goes. He's basically, he's going to call out the Supreme Court justices. Seriously.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Okay, so that, in my mind, is actually worse than Trump's lawyer basically saying that those guys should make the proper decision. I mean, this guy really, he tried to like interfere with their decisions because not only was he on the steps of the SCOTUS at the time, and they were in there talking about it. He even brings that up during his speech in the beginning. I didn't play it for you, but he brings that up during the speech saying they're in there making the decision right now. And he goes ahead and says that. That is, I believe, falls under the United States Code of Parading, which would have been a bit of a problem and could have landed him in hot water. Now, some people would say, no, he was, because he's a representative or a senator in this case of Congress, he is immune from prosecution. But unfortunately, that only counts in the Constitution if he's doing his job. Apparently doing a speech, like Trump was, is not doing his job. So if that's the case and you take that same standard and apply it to this speech, then he should be arrested under the parading violation and, thrown in jail for that when he did this speech in front of SCOTUS, the actual building where they work, in front of SCOTUS, and trying to influence their decision on the Dobbs decision. So once again, the left, the Democrats, hypocrisy. Just understand when it says Democrats, it equals hierarchy and hypocrisy. Those are the two things that occur with the Dems. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Now, the last thing, of course, that's right, Mark. It says it goes back to when he is on and off duty again. Exactly. I mean, we've got to figure out, whether or not Trump or whoever, these people are either on or off duty for it. Well, now, the last thing that the left has been throwing out is, of course, having to deal with the Epstein files. Now, again, as I pointed out on social media to everybody, you've got to understand the files and the names that are being released have nothing to do with the official list. Okay. It's on me to be accurate. I must be accurate. I must be truthful. I must be completely transparent to you. Whenever I bring you information, I've got to bring the receipts. I've got to be honest and truthful. And, that's the ethical and integrity side of me. But the thing about it is that the Epstein files that are being released are actually previously redacted court files that are now being unredacted and presented to the public. It has nothing to do with the actual Epstein list, unlike what you see on all of the social media outlets that are out there. Okay? Now, that being said, we've had some interesting names come up. Names like Hillary Clinton, which was just released in the third round of documents that have been unredacted. We have Bill Clinton, which is also in the unredacted documents. We even have people like Michael Jackson, who, honestly, I mean, I don't know if he was actually involved with any of this, although, his name shows up maybe once. Then you have Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's name shows up 4 times in the document. But the thing about it is it shows up 4 times because of the fact the witness was being asked 4 separate questions. Did you ever see Donald Trump on the island? The answer was no. I don't recall seeing him. The second question, do you recall seeing Donald Trump in New Mexico? The answer was no. I do not recall seeing him. The question was, do you recall seeing Donald Trump in Epstein's home in New York? The answer is no. I don't recall. Then she gets asked for one more place that Epstein owned. And the answer is, once again, predictably, no, I don't recall seeing him at these places. So the witness was asked 4 separate times, did you see Donald Trump at these various locations? The answer was no. That essentially opens up the whole idea that Donald Trump is actually saying, when he said, yes, I knew Epstein, yes, I flew on his planes between Florida and New York, but no, I've never been to Epstein Island, and also corroborates to a certain degree the fact that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago once he found out what was going on. Okay? Now, all of this, of course, rolls back to the idea that Donald Trump, back in 2016, when he was running for president the first time, was accused of raping a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old girl in conjunction with Epstein. Now, this case, especially those on X, I'm telling you, these libtards on X are just, you talk about, Trumpists, quote unquote, being sycophantic. These freaking groups of people are extremely sycophantic. So I wanted to take a look and see if I could find something that might refute this. Guess what? I found this article in a left-wing mainstream media outlet. Vox talks about this particular case. And just to kind of wrap this all up in a nice, neat little bow for you. First of all, there's the case itself was actually dismissed and dropped, both. It was dismissed at first on a technicality. Then it was refiled and it was dropped. The reason why it was dropped, though, is in question. Now, the thing about it is they claim that the individual who is bringing the accusation was intimidated, was threatened with death threats. The family was threatened with death threats. But the funny thing about it is this left-wing organization, Vox, and a bunch of left-wing lunatic press folks in this article, which came out in November 3rd of 2016, and I've got it linked in the description. You go through it, and there's a lot of questions that even the press has about this particular case and this particular scenario. Now, I bring this up, of course, to some of the leftist lunatics, and they immediately all jump on the bandwagon. This is not the case. It's true. It is not, it's not fake. It's not whatever. It's, it's factual. I've seen the interviews. Well, if you read through the whole article, and I'm just going to point this out, if you read through the whole article, they actually dispute every single point of all this. First of all, the person who, Katie Johnson, is even questioned as to whether or not she's real. I mean, they couldn't verify it. The only time she shows up on video is for this video right here, where supposedly somebody who claims to be Katie Johnson was interviewed and her face is blurred. She's wearing a wig. And there's even some question as to whether or not the person who produced the video actually was on the up and up anyway, because it was discovered that the person who produced the video and was pushing it at the time, like hardcore pushing it. And there was questions and stuff that he was even asked that were sort of questioning. But even he had a pseudonym, and his real identity was actually uncovered. And it turns out that he, as the producer of the video, was a television producer for like the Jerry Springer show or something like that, and had questionable roots in doing this in the past. So this entire thing, supposedly that occurred back in 1994 and was brought up in 2016, is, again, it's all questionable. It's all fake. Potentially, it's like there's just so much stuff here, so many questions on this entire thing, and the left won't let it go. They keep pointing at Donald Trump, calling him a pedophile, calling him a rapist, which he's not. He was never convicted of rape. He's only been found liable for sexual assault, which even that, I hope, is being appealed because of all of the questions in Carol's testimony and story. But anyway, the point being here is don't believe everything that you see. And even then, even if I can bring the receipts like this, a left-wing organization, I mean, think about this. The press has been after Trump since he announced in 2016 being the Republican candidate. They have been after him since. And even if they are saying, yeah, this smells fishy, that's a bit of a problem. And it tells me, at least, that there's some fishiness that we really need to pay attention to when it comes on for that. All right, one last break real quick here. I want to tell you about my wonderful gear store. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online and get great gear, like fantastic stuff. I've got t-shirts, hoodies, regular sweatshirts, crew neck sweatshirts. I've got glasses, water bottles, all kinds of stuff with both my logo and my motto, when I drink, I think, in both white and black. I tried to color match things, you know. But yeah, go and check it out at store.whiskeymusings.online. And I'm going to be honest with you, I put a little bit of money over and above the cost, but I don't take a lot for this. I try to keep the cost down for you guys. I'm only looking at, a few dollars to help support the show. And, just go and check it out. And if you've a mind to, maybe pick one up. And if you do pick one up, I would love to see photos of your gear out in the wild. My Whiskey Warrior fans have been sending me photos. I've seen stuff like running the dogs. We showed you on the Pet of the Week in the last episode, Wednesday. Agility. I've seen my button around at different places like the Flight 93 Memorial and that kind of stuff. It is just great. It fills my heart with joy whenever I see these photos of my fans wearing my gear and taking me out and of course talking about the show. That is just fantastic. I love my Whiskey Warrior P1s. So go and help becoming yourself a Whiskey Warrior P1. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online and like Buddy mentions, buy a cap. I have a cap there that you guys can call. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So the one other thing that they have, of course, gone on and 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 on about is about the fact that all of the election denials and all of the election fraud cases were never taken care of. It was all false. The courts just, there was nothing there. No evidence whatsoever. And the courts took care of it. Well, that's kind of interesting, considering the fact that there was a post on Truth Social, and actually Donald Trump posted it, but it was a repost of somebody else's post. But here you can see it. Kyle Becker from Becker News has apparently created a spreadsheet, which which Trump screenshotted here. And so basically went through and found all of the court cases throughout the country and put them all in a spreadsheet. Now, this spreadsheet does also indicate, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but also indicates with, different colors in the third or fourth from the right column in terms of their disposition. But the key here is that, everybody keeps talking about the fact that there were 60 plus cases and all of them were thrown out. Okay. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. According to Kyle Becker, he found 92 actual cases, of which 30 were actually adjudicated. So 1/3 were actually adjudicated. They actually had their day in court. Of those 30, he claims 22 came out in favor of the plaintiff, meaning of Donald Trump. So 22 of them actually found election fraud and were adjudicated in favor of the plaintiff. Okay. Now, again, I pointed out to multiple people that 92 of the cases, so 62 of them were thrown out or dismissed due to what's known as lack of standing. And if you follow me on X, you can find the tweet. I went ahead and essentially said there's 3 parts to figuring out whether or not you have standing. And the third part of that is essentially whether or not the court can do anything about it, which I actually think is probably the one piece that most of these courts decided that the person is able to, or the plaintiff doesn't have any standing, is because of the fact that these courts actually believed that they couldn't do anything about it. So because they believed that they couldn't do anything about it, they essentially said, well, you have a lack of standing, so you're out. Okay. Anyway, once again, another leftist narrative debunked. Of the 92 brought, 62 were thrown out due to standing, 30 were adjudicated, 22 of the 30, which is a pretty significant number, came out in positive for the plaintiff, Donald Trump. Okay, now, really quick, I'm just going to do this. So I'm just going to do this because I see my Rumble going nuts. All right. Colleen from Birmingham talks about and is talking about the Boeing. I believe it's the 737, the newest one. So here's the deal, folks. I've been watching this too, but because of the fact that it's just a Washington, Oregon, Pacific Northwest thing, I didn't want to throw this in there. But the plane, the 737, took off the MAX 9. Thank you, Tommy, for that. The 737 MAX 9. It was an Alaska Airlines flight. It took off from Portland, headed for Seattle. And because that's a common, like, it's called a commuter link. But they took off. They were right around what I've heard is like around 15,000 feet or so. And a window panel, meaning the panel that has the window in it, pulled out and just like got sucked out. And the thing about it is that this particular plane had rolled off the line at Boeing just 2 months ago. It's only been in service for roughly about 2 months. And so, yeah, everybody on the plane landed, they landed safely. Everybody on the plane landed safely, and nobody got hurt. A bunch of phones got sucked out, though. And there was reports that a baby had to be hung on to quite tightly to keep the baby from being sucked out. But nobody got injured. They landed safely. Everything was okay as far as that goes. Thank the Lord for that. But because of that, the Yeah, and everybody was traumatized. I mean, anybody would be having that happen. But the thing is that the FAA has now grounded them. So anyway, so that's basically what happened. There are some videos out there on the internet. On X, for an example, there is a video where the person shows the plane as it's coming down. And yes, and Boeing apparently now, Buddy has updated. I haven't looked at an update, but Buddy is saying that Boeing has grounded all of those planes worldwide. So that's essentially what happened with that. And so that's part of the reason why you're going to see all of that for that. And that's not good. Not good. Okay. Yeah. Funny you mentioned that. There was a lot of suggestion of that from commenters on social media. But anyway. I want to play this video for you. I have, this is a video, hat tip to Ben Berquam from Real America's Voice. And I think it's really important because they caught up to this guy. He is a Iranian citizen, okay? An Iranian citizen who came across our border. And they caught up to him and interviewed him. Now they've blurred out his face, but he speaks fairly good English, to be honest with you. So it should be fairly easy for you to understand. But he's got some really interesting thoughts and things about what's going on. The interview goes, or the video goes, for almost 6 minutes. So you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to sit through it. I'm not gonna stop it because it's extremely important for you to listen to the questions that are asked and what this guy says on it. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm gonna bring it over. So here he is, and I'm gonna go ahead and play it for you. So just listen to this because this actually even ties into the question tonight, the question for Whiskey tonight. So listen to this guy.
If I was a governor here, I would be afraid because all of these people in China, military age, India, military age, even myself, I'm military age. And there's a question is coming up in here. One scary question. If an incident between US and China occur in Taiwan, what these people do? Or they come aside of US or they take China's side? Don't know, and no one's know.
What was the route you took from Iran?
Come to Turkey, and Turkey to Mexico, Mexico to United
So
States.
what would prevent a terrorist from doing the same thing?
Nothing. Exactly nothing.
That's scary.
Real scary. I'm telling you, friend, if you see Europe, the people, politician in Europe is sleeping out. Well, like, don't be offended, but Joe Biden is sleeping at the moment.
He's terrible.
It's far more than terrible. Not for U.S., for the all of the war. Just look at the war. We have 3 war. We have sanction. We had a recession in the entire planet. Everyone say I'm wrong, but if you like it or not, if a recession come in U.S., there will like a pandemic comes in all the countries, and Joe Biden is doing this. It's not good.
So Trump was better. You want Trump back in office?
Despite that, they fears us. If you come, Trump is back, you will be deported. Yes, I want Trump back.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Despite that, because he just create. We have a sentence in our country. That means a lot for this moment. We say, I said in Persian, then I will rephrase it in English for you. We say, آنکه با مادر خود زنا کند با دیگران چه ها کند. That means if someone betray his family and his mother, just think about that, what he can do with the others.
Yeah, if he doesn't respect them, how will he respect
Joe
you?
Biden don't respect the U.S.
Wow.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. Are you Muslim, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm born Muslim, but I don't believe in Islam.
More secular.
More secular.
Yeah.
Secular. I'm a non-believer. And I just want to say, if you ask me why I didn't go to Europe, that was easier for me. But I don't trust them because they don't help any people. And the last thing I say, I don't know if it's Reagan or if it's Nixon said that. I think Reagan said that. Reagan once told the people of the world, we are the last stand against falling into democracy. If US falls, everyone falls.
Wow. How concerned, so you're a secular, I was speaking to some of these guys from Turkey, the same thing, they're fleeing. How bad is Islam for the world?
How much you want me to be straight?
As straight as you can be.
It's terrible. It's the new virus. The wave of virus is coming, and you cannot prevent it like this. If you think people from radical jihadist Islam and radical system of Islam coming to your country and they take an oath of U.S. citizen, and you think when they come a time that they have to take a side between Islam and U.S., you would be so naive if you think they take U.S. side. Their mind are dead. Once I asked one of my Islamist friend in Iran, he's a good guy. He's a very respected guy at my office. I asked him, if your prophet tells you have to detonate a nuclear bomb, what would you do? He said, if the prophet says, it means it comes from Allah, and I would do it. And I respond that you are one footstep away from being a terrorist. He don't believe me, but it's it.
Yeah.
Islam is terrible.
How many terrorists do you think we have in America now?
I don't have the numbers, but lots. It's about lots of terrorists, and just people saying about America that America is not safe because of guns, but it's ridiculous. America is safe. America has the strongest democracy and politics because of the guns, because of your First and Second Amendment. America, guns don't kill people. Radicalists kill people.
Yeah.
Guns just do the action I wanted, not they.
Right.
No guns come and get a foot and kill people in a line. But Islamists will do. Islamists will come here, get the guns, get the C4 detonations, and kill people. They're not good. They're not good.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody, if everybody heard that fully, but this guy, I want to sign him up. I'm going to tell you right now, if I could, I would give him an American citizenship right here, right now. And he comes from Iran, from all places, Iran. Now, there are several key things that he talked about. Number one, he basically said that Joe Biden is garbage. That's number one. Number two, he said that the Muslim population over here, that if they were told by their prophet or whatever, he called them their prophet, but if they were told by his prophet to go and light off a nuclear bomb, that he would. And he told the guy, well, that brings you one step closer to being an actual terrorist. Now, this was one of his friends back in Iran, okay? He also talks about how Ronald Reagan was actually a joke. I know the joke that he's talking about. It was sort of a joke with regards to, I mean, it was put in a speech as a point of order, I guess, more than just a joke. But it was one of those times that Ronald Reagan goes off. I think I have the clip somewhere. I wish I could have pulled it up. But he talks about how Ronald Reagan was talking to a Cuban refugee, and that, or couple of guys were telling Ronald Reagan this, that they were talking to a Cuban refugee, and the refugee made a comment about how, or the two guys from America were like, hey, we're kind of lucky, blah, blah, blah. And the Cuban refugee looks at the two of them and goes, you're lucky. You guys already live here. I'm lucky because I had a place to escape to. And the point that Ronald Reagan was making during that speech is that if America falls, there's no place else to go, folks. There's nowhere else to go. And this guy gets it. I would take 1,000 of him, 1,000 of him over any of the Democrats today. Okay, I don't know. This is just crazy. That there we go. Okay, so this is just crazy that I can't even imagine. This guy is from Iran, from all places. Now, he was asked if there's a lot of terrorists here, which, of course, he couldn't really say. I understand that. But the point is that this is just incredible. That a man who essentially slipped through the border is bringing all of this stuff up. And, yeah, I can't even imagine. I would love to give this guy citizenship right away because he just gets it. He gets it. He understands. He knows. And he also advocated over the fact that because America has the First and Second Amendment, that he basically is saying that that's why we are the best freedom place within the world, and that he could have gone to Europe, but in reality he came here. So yeah, it's an amazing testimony. Now, granted, I know a lot of people might say that that's, maybe he was just mugging for the camera or whatever. But anyway, the point being here, though, is the fact that this is the kind of spirit that we need, folks. This is the kind of spirit that we need here in the U.S. We need to revitalize the American spirit for this. And Alice McGee, welcome. Alice McGee, 44 over on Rumble, welcome. But I really would like to know where other countries are to run to. And the reason why I say that is because I was actually considering that and thinking of myself, that if America were to fall, where would we go? And I was thinking, my buddy and I, Steven Stiles, you've heard him before, but he went and he and I were talking about going to possibly Ireland, and then Ireland passed that law with regards to what quote unquote hate speech and putting you into into prison for misgendering someone. So I'm sorry, but I don't know of any place on this planet that is the beacon of hope, that is the beacon of freedom, that is the beacon for everyone in the world to know that they can go to and can be individually responsible for themselves without government oppression, other than here in the United States. All right. Let's get on to, and I'm going to have to find it. Where is it? Hello? What happened? Here we go. All right. So let's move on to, and once again, I'm losing everything here, but let's move on to tonight's question for whiskey. All right. So tonight's question for whiskey comes from Mr. 3 Chevy over on Rumble. And this time I'm actually going to get his phrasing correct. So he says, Greetings, Whiskey, and all you, and this is the part that I'm finally going to get correct. I can never get this right, but I finally am going to get it. Thanks for writing it down. Non-deprogrammed ultra mega Neanderthal deplorables. That's 3 Chevy. And so now my question is, can you explain the difference between an Army regiment, battalion, a division, and how many of these were involved during the D-Day invasion of Normandy? And then contrast that with how many illegal immigrants President Biden has let into our country. Would it be possible for you to make a bar graph, not a Venn diagram? The Venn diagram is not going to do it, to illustrate this. Thank you again for all the effort that you put into each broadcast. 3 Chevy. All right. So here's the deal. Okay. First of all of those are military unit names. Okay. And so so basically they're broken down mostly by size. Okay. And you have things like squad, platoon, company, etc. And it goes up. But in your particular case, and you asked specifically about, and let me get this set up. You asked specifically about battalions, regiments, divisions. I added corps in this. But here's a pie chart. Now, a battalion has up to 1,000 soldiers. A regiment can have up to 15,000 soldiers. A division can have up to 25,000 soldiers. And a corps is actually made up of several divisions. And I couldn't actually find the actual number, but they said they were made up of several divisions. So I just took a guess at about 150,000 soldiers. Now, the thing about it is, on all of this, is the fact that and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my my chats to come back up. Things are just not working that well tonight. But anyway, so the thing about it is, you can kind of take a look at this pie chart, and you can see that the battalion is smaller than the regiment is smaller than the division is much smaller than the corps. Okay. So let me go ahead and move this over to against the amount of illegals that have come across the border during Biden's regime. Now, remember how I said 25,000 to 150,000 was the corps? Well, as you can see by this, the latest number that I could find of assumed total count for all 3 years so far under Biden is 5.5 million Americans. Okay? 5.5 million. Sorry, I said Americans, but a million illegals have come across. 5.5 million illegals. Now, if you recall, going back to this, there's the corps. The corps is pretty big at 150,000 people. Not the illegals, 5.5 million. Now, here's the thing. Okay? 5.5 million illegals have come into this country according to numbers, people who are paying attention to this stuff. Even if you just take this 1 year, you're looking at 3 million illegals that have shown up just in this past year. 2.7 million is, I think, the number. When you look at D-Day, now D-Day on Normandy, okay, there was Allied troops, there was American troops, there was, just a whole host of different people. So the numbers are a little vague in terms of exactly how many, but I can tell you that reportedly there were 6 American divisions that were a part of D-Day, and somewhere in the realm of 160,000 troops that partook in the D-Day invasion, meaning all of the 5 or 6 beaches, I think it was 5 beaches that were a part of it, they only had 160,000 troops. Here's, if you look at the orange, that's the amount of people that took part of D-Day. And the blue is still the number of illegals that have been let in under Biden. Now, keep in mind, not all of those illegals are fighting age men, although, as you know, on this program, I've been pointing out that there are several groups of illegals that have been coming across the border. You just heard from one of them. But there's, Chinese and Iranians and Venezuelans and all kinds of people storming across the border. Well, that border, okay, and the number of people, even if we took a portion, let's just say 1/5 of that number is fighting aged single men, and the rest were all women and children, okay, or old folks, you're still looking at 1 million versus 160,000 in the comparison. This is crazy. This is total nuts. This is incredibly, incredibly scary and incredibly dangerous. I mean, we only have 330 million Americans, roughly, in this country based on the last census taken. 330. And we've already brought in 5 million in comparison. This is some scary stuff, folks. So when you look at going and voting in 2024, just keep in mind, and I'm not talking about just for the president, I'm talking across the board. Anyone in Congress, and by Congress, both the House and the Senate, because that's what Congress makes up. You have got to take a closer look at all of those people and how they voted on all of this crap and how they stand. What do they stand for? Do they stand for American sovereignty and actual borders? Or do they stand for the idea that the left has been pushing for the last 10 or 15 years in the fact that we can replace them? Thank you, 3 Chevy, for your submission. If you want to submit a question for Whiskey or a Pet of the Week, which is the segment that I do on Wednesdays, send me an email to fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online. And you can go ahead and do that anytime, and I will pick things up, and put it in the queue. As of right now, I do not have either a question or a Pet of the Week for next week. So I would love to see your pets. I would love to get your questions and be able to research. And hopefully, 3 Chevy, that answered your question. Buddy Weiser mentions Joe Kent for U.S. Senate. That is correct. Joe Kent is running for U.S. Senate. He actually, here in Washington, he actually ran for Congress, I believe it was a year or two ago, and lost, unfortunately. All right, that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you like the broadcast, if you like what I bring, head on over to Rumble, sign up for an account. It's free. And once you're there, go ahead and look up the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel. Make sure you click that follow button. Also, the other thing you can do is make sure you hit that thumbs up. That's a Rumble. So hit that thumbs up because Rumble pays attention to that and will help moving me into the rankings. I'm also being reminded, so here you go, Outlaw. I'm being reminded to sing for Bonnie, who is not here, unfortunately, but Bonnie over on Rumble. So here you go. It is her birthday, and I do this whenever I'm aware of people's birthdays. So here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bonnie. Happy birthday to you and many more. There you go, folks. We'll see you on Wednesday on the next Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everybody. Oh, I see what happened. My keyboard